Chicago, Illinois, Mobile, Alabama, Billings, Montana, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, Maryland, Orlando, Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Lansing, Michigan, Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon, Denver, Colorado, Houston, Texas, New Orleans, Louisiana, Sacramento, California, Abraham, Concordia, Salt Lake City, Utah, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. And also for the Kansas City, Missouri, home of the three-time Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to launch with the Missouri Baptist Chamber Company for a beautiful, beautiful Saturday, August 10, 2024. My name is our social host and creator, along with Elder Allen Lau. How you doing this morning, Ray? Afternoon, Ray.
Hey.
How you doing? Okay. Right now, and I know we all dealing with sinus today, and I know that's what's going on with our work. We have some beautiful weather here, some beautiful weather in the 70s, 60s, man. That's why our voices sound real crazy today. What about you, Scott? How you sounding?
I'm sounding great. Thank you.
That's why you get that voice. And also we can join later on.
It was standard equipment. God gave it to me when I first got born, so I don't have.
And you've been using it, brother.
Well, I try to.
Well, we be joined later on by Mr. Chucky Boy the Third, but right now we're broadcasting live on Ferguson, USA, HotTalkRadio.com. Also on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram from beautiful Woods Terrace. It's in North County and also North Angeles City and from all of Missouri. We want to thank you again for being a part of our show this morning, afternoon, on Ferguson, USA, HotTalkRadio.com. There's a real meaning to that. This is the 10th anniversary of death Mr. Michael Brown Jr. That guy sister came on the air about a year later after his death. So he had his 10th anniversary yesterday. We'll talk more about it in the program, but also Ferguson, HotTalkRadio.com in reality a year later. But right now, we will have prayer with Elder Allen Lau, Pastor of the North Fork Bible Chapel Church, located at 5547 Midland Avenue. It's in North St. Louis, section 5547, and also the zip code 63120. And we have some beautiful prayer today. We have the Allen Lau, who's the pastor of the North Fork Bible Chapel Church, located at 5547 Midland Avenue in North St. Louis at 63120. Prayers up. But today we have prayers up with Elder Allen Lau, who's the pastor of the North Fork Bible Chapel Church, located at 5547 Midland Avenue in North St. Louis at 63120. Elder Lau, top afternoon to you, sir.
Same to you. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for waking us up this morning. You didn't have to, but you did. Most of all, we thank you for your wonderful gospel, how that Christ died for our sin, was buried, and rose again. I continue believing to the saving of the soul, continues to make heaven your home before you sleep and after you sleep. Heavenly Father, we continue to ask you to bless all the sick in the universe. And Heavenly Father, we might have a wonderful fellowship with you this afternoon in your most darling Son, Jesus' name. And the Holy Spirit continue to convict spirits to be saved before it's ever too late. Amen.
Well, we want to thank you so much for that beautiful prayer. Definitely need that. And I thank you so much for you and your family. So, what do you got for us today, sir? Oh, read my Bible. What you got for us today?
The rebuke of worldliness.
Oh, if that's something I would be, that's a good time of day. Okay, what chapter you got for us?
This is in 4th chapter of James.
James, the 4th chapter. James 4.
It's this is something that people seem to forget. That's why we have to be born again. Because that's why there's no good thing that dwells in the flesh, because we're earthly people. and sinners. It's by God's grace what happens to keep us out of trouble.
Amen.
Because we can't do nothing on our own. So there's no good thing that dwells in the flesh. And let's talk about this nature. That's why all these murders and killing going on out here be in this lesson here too. That I'm gonna read
about. A lot of those, yeah, a lot of those. Yes, sir.
And notice what it said. It said, from whence come wars? Hey, we war every day. There's a war going on in the world, and there's a war going on inside of you and your body, each individual that's in the world. There's a war going on. Because you know how to do good and evil.
Yes.
And fightings among you. Come they not hence, even of your lust. The lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, the pride of life. That's what's in the world. That's why we desire these things in the world, because of the old nature that's in us. That war in your members. It's talking about the inner person.
Amen.
Ye lust and have not. Ye kill and desire to have, and cannot obtain. Ye fight and war, yet ye have not, because ye ask not. Ye ask and receive not, because you are asked amiss, that you may consume it upon your lusts.
Ain't that real? That's deep right there.
Ye adulterers and adulteresses. This is talking about married individuals. The married male and the married female. And adulteresses. Know you not that the friendship of the world is enmity with God. Whosoever therefore would be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. Do you think that the scripture said in vain? The spirit that dwelleth in us lusts to envy. But he giveth more grace, wherefore he said, God resists the proud, but give grace unto the humble. Submit yourself therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. Be afflicted, and moan, and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, and your joy to heaviness. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up. Speak not evil one of another. Brethren, he that speaketh evil of his brother and judges his brother, speaketh evil of the law, and judges the law. But if thou judge the law, thou art not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is one lawgiver who is able to save and to destroy. Excuse me. Who art thou that judges a lover? Go to now, ye that said, today or tomorrow we will go into such a city and continue there a year and buy and sell and get gain. Whereas ye know not what should be on the morrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeared for a little time and then vanish away.
Wow.
But that ye ought to say, if the Lord's will, we should live and do this or that. but now you rejoice in your boasting. All such rejoicing is evil. Therefore, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth not, to him it is sin. The wages of sin is death. Gift for God's eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. May the Lord have blessing to the reader and hearer of his word.
Okay, now, Rev, let's go back and explain that to the people to make sure they understand what you just talked about.
All this is explaining. It's simple. Follow Christ and give up worldly things. But it's a lot of things out there worldly. Some of them is good and some of them bad. But it said there's none good, no, not one. So ain't none of that's good. We might call it good, but it ain't. It ain't no good for you because see, it don't have no results. It still causes you to have problems. The good and the bad cause you to have problems.
Yeah, Rev.
When you're in Christ, you can bear with him. You can bear with what's going on in Christ because he protects you and keeps you out of harm's way.
Well, I know one thing that you said here, okay, that's so important. You started, your reading is about the wars and the coming of wars, and that's amongst the whole world. And once a war takes place anywhere in the world, it affects the rest of the world. And that's the same way something take place in your family. If you kill somebody, do something to your family, the whole family unit is is destroyed. Just because for one act that makes sometimes, like you said, it can be lust for a jealousy. Then we do stuff.
That's why the Lord tells us as Christians, walk by faith and not by sight.
Mm-hmm.
You can't control what's going on the outside, but you can control what's going on the inside by believing in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That he died for your sin, was buried and rose again, and then you practice showing love, charity, and understanding to people, and want to be a help to make things better.
And that's a thing, Rev, that right now in our society, we don't have a lot of laughs, a lot of joy, a lot of happy people that reflecting on good things, and there's a lot of good stuff going on that we just don't talk about it. You know what I'm saying? But we're trying to talk about the bad stuff, not the good stuff.
Yep. It's more bad. It's a lot of bad going on because of people. One person sees somebody drive through the stop sign, the other one do it too, with no question.
Oh my God!
They do that too, and they just in danger and putting themselves in harm's way as well as somebody else.
Well, that's one thing that I don't know about other cities, okay, but here in the St. Louis area, especially St. Louis City, stop lights and stop signs do not have the meaning that they had in the past. For people that run around, you go through them, and there's no, and I guess there's no respect for nobody else. Like you say, you put other people in harm's way when you do something like that. I mean, you don't know who you could possibly kill, or kill your own self. But that's the whole. Go ahead, yes, sir. You know what that is? Selfishness. Selfishness and pride. You got to know what things that you do: the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. The first two you can work with them, but the pride of life is the hardest thing to get rid of, and that's what causes people to have death out here because of their pride. They holding on to it, and that was the biggest thing of the devil. So you act like you first follow the devil. Yes, sir. Pride of life. And the Bible said that when Christ before he started his ministry, the devil was trying to tempt him. And he said he rebuked the devil, saying that the young people do this, do that. But when he said, I know who I am. I am my God. I'm God's child. Like we all know it, but we don't seem to know that sometimes.
That's why you have to walk by faith and not by sight.
Something you say all the time, real, that is always hold true, okay, but there's no hands on most things that go wrong. Tell us about that.
Repeat that?
Well, you said there's no hands on what goes on. That God's work is always, you can tell what he does, and nobody can touch it.
Well, God's work is without hands.
There you go.
And our work is with hands. And anything that's working with hands is a lot of problems.
Yes, sir.
And that's from the president on down.
Yes, that's the nation, the world is and that includes all of us, no matter where we go. Because right now we heard around the world, we've heard in Russia, China, Bangladesh, a lot of places. But the one thing that we go in there, God is putting us there without any hands. Through His grace that we have these creations on social media. Those are things that he brought along at the proper time. There's nothing new. It's just that God decided to make it a part of our lives. And now we can't do without it. Matter of fact, somebody I know that but go here. I think right now, but you always said no hands. So God got it.
All I say, everybody need to be born again. That's the solution to this worldly problem. Everybody need to be born again and coming to the knowledge of the truth of doing what thus said the Lord.
But Rev, this chapter kind of breaks this down, line by line, about the things that we should be doing, that we should not, that we do, that we should not be doing. And there's a path to how to straighten it out. In the first part of the chapter, he tells you about all the things that that you do wrong. And then he nicely said, you do this, for it said that for that he also said, that the Lord will, you shall live, and do this or that. And that's the second thing to say. Like I said right now, some of the people, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. He said, I said right now, sir, whereas you know not what shall be done on tomorrow, and what is your life. But it is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then is vanishes forever. And that's how people's lives are right now. The young people just dying unnecessarily. Unnecessarily. Never had a chance to enjoy life and know what life is about. And their vapor, only appear.
That's why some people don't understand why. They say, why this happened to me? Just because when you say something, God hears it, the devil hears it, and the demons. And when you say, I'm going to do this, especially if it's something for to help somebody be a help and important for people to work together, here comes the devil.
Rev, is one thing that I tell people all the time, and there's a verse in the Bible, but it's Psalms 141:3. And this is so important. It says, sit and watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. And what that means is you can pray a blessing on yourself or a curse on yourself. And it's how you speak the words that are said. You can talk and say, I'm having a bad day. You have a bad day. Just speak it into existence. You have a good day, guess what? You're thinking good thoughts. And good things come to you. But you're thinking bad things come to you.
Amen.
And that's all. And that's Psalm 141:3. I know you just read about James 4, but if you could add Psalm 141:3. Keep sitting, watch over your mouth is what you say. Because you said something, no, you're going to do something. or you're going to say something bad to somebody, and then the results are bad. You say something good, the results are good. It's as simple as that. I know I told thousands of people this rap over the years, and they all come back to me, folks. Thank you for that, reminding me. I stopped talking bad things about myself and started thinking good things about myself, and my life has changed. Well, you listen to Elder Loud. Listen to Ferguson USA HotTalkRadio.com. My name is Ira, folks. That's Scott, and life is good, and we will be right back. Got to get out of here.
Amen.
Life is good on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. Lunch with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce is happy to be here. Matter of fact, we came to reality in 2015. It was following the death of the late Michael Brown Jr. in Ferguson, Missouri. And during that time period, which the anniversary was yesterday of the young man passing, Michael Brown Jr. Was killed in the Cancer Green Complex in Ferguson, Missouri. There was a march yesterday from the high school that he graduated from right before he was killed to Ferguson to the Cancer Green Apartments when he was killed by a Ferguson police officer, and that set off a wave of demonstrations that changed so many things in our lives that would never go back. It changed the way the police system is in a lot of the small cities where they was had a thing called debtor's prison, where they was taking people money. If you were poor, they'll put you in jail. And this is right happened here in Ferguson, Missouri. It was one of those cities that had a bad reputation for black folks. And now, Michael Brown, I can say this, in the 10 years since then, we now have a black mayor, Mary Ellen Jones, who's been against our program many times. And right now, this city was burned up 10 years ago, but now it's part of a brand new rebirth. And so good things can come out of bad things. And we're happy to say that we are right now experiencing all the good things that he did for us. And also that I'm happy to say that Ferguson USA HotTalkRadio.com came about mainly because a year after his death, a lot of people came to Ferguson to do a lot of things, and then coming into Ferguson, one of the things that the St. ambassadors felt that there was a need for communications, and from there became Ferguson USA HotTalkRadio.com. That's who we are today. In that process, we originally The ambassadors were the previous owners of the nonprofit. Then through God's grace, Scott Owens came along and picked up the pieces, and secured us on his back for a while, like I did for a while, the gym at the station. And then Scott has passed it on to me now, and right now I'm looking forward to having everyone's help as we continue to broadcast around the world. Information you can't get any place else about what's going on in our Black community. So not just our Black community, but what's going on in the community that you don't get to hear about. And right now, there's a lot going on in our communities around the world, and I mean around the world. One thing that we've been continuously talking to you about in the last year is COVID-19. That COVID-19 is alive and well. And a good example of that was this past week. One of the top athletes in the world, Mr. Noah Nash, who won the title of fastest man in the world, and was running in the 200-meter race, and he came in third. But once he crossed the finish line, he passed out. Well, guess what? He had COVID, and COVID affected his body in a way that he could not be number one. So right now, what I'm saying to you, what we all know now, that COVID is not going away. It is not going any place. Matter of fact, according to the deputy director of the CDC, Aaron Hall, at this point, COVID-19 can be described as an epidemic, not a pandemic, epidemic throughout the world. What that means is that you need to wear your face mask, you need to wash your hands wherever you touch something, wherever you can, and also right now, as we go back to school, it's so important that you get your kids vaccinated. So they're going to be around a lot of different children, and they all may not be vaccinated, but whether you can make sure that your child is safe. What that child brings home to you and to your house goes along from your uncle, your auntie, your grandmother. So it's very important that you get that booster shot that they send nowadays. That means call your doctor or you by your health department and get it for free. But what needs to be done is now, and see what happens. So a while years ago, we had the pandemic going on. Everybody reported what was going on with the COVID. Well, nowadays, they're not making those reports. They're leaving you on your own. They don't ask you to figure out yourself if you got COVID. They gave those test kits. And some people don't know how to use them, some people use them. But like I said, if you have any doubt, go to your local clinic and have them read it for you. And then like you had the president himself had it a couple of weeks ago. So really, that tells you if these people like him and the people in the Olympic, they say about 20 people, 40 people at the Olympic right now, president right now, are dealing with COVID at the Olympics right now. Every 40 athletes are tested positive for the virus. And they're going on around the world, even further from this. So the Olympics has been like an incubator, like a better script. So right now, we ask you, please. And also, as we look at the world, right now, we ask for praying for the Middle East, because right now we were going toward peace, and all of a sudden, usually bombing, the Gaza schools, and then that is good overall. A lot of some people got killed, and so now this is kind of having a finish. To this point, I hate to say this, but Mr. Netanyahu, Prime Minister, do not want this war to end. Because if it does, or when it does, he's probably going to jail. And so as long as he can keep this going, okay, because right now, the world wants to end this war. But Israel is the one that's kind of keeping it going right now. So right now, really, we all talk about it in the Bible about Israel. There's some stiff-necked people. And so we ask you, to please, keep them in your prayers, and people that the lives have been taken. And also, another thing that we ask prayers for the Brazilian Airlines, a plane crash outside São Paulo, killing 61 people on Friday afternoon. The dynamic footage showed the plane right before the crash. and it dropped down 17,000 feet in just a minute into a crowded community. So that's prayer to all those people in that community that's been that's been decimated, for lack of a better description. And also, weather-wise, the remnants of tornado, the Debbie, has started out, as a hurricane, came ashore down in the Gulf, went all the way over now. It's on the east coast now. And right now, the remnants of Debbie has started pushing us southern New York, northern Pennsylvania. The system already triggered tornadoes and flood warnings for Washington, D.C. and I do mean Washington, D.C. is having deal with that, but it's not stopping there. It created floodings in South Carolina and remains a serious threat despite losing its tropical status. So far, at least 8 people have died because of this. And this is something, again, that we have no control over in the world, because as we speak, this tornado, hurricane, call it whatever you want to call it, but it is alive and well, and it's taking lives as we go to meet the break. And also, like I said, that's tornadoes, that's on the East Coast. Now, on the West Coast, which we had to say is kind of crazy. This has been going on for a little while, and in California and in the surrounding areas, we actually get it right now. These wildfires, it's been going on for several weeks now. And not only this in California, before that we had the wildfire going on up in Canada. Well, there we were having problems with the smoke coming across here in St. Louis. But now this wildfire that's started in California now, it's pretty much all over the west coast. I'm talking about all down. See, these fires happen. They create something that's forever lasting, and destruction when they happen. It just unbelievable. Right now, the Park Service says they have, now listen to this, over 91 large active wildfires are being managed nationwide. Listen to this figure right now. This is 2,360,000 acres nationwide have been in the path of these wildfires, and about 27,000 firefighters and support personnel are fighting these fires. That's a lot of people who put their lives on the line. And this includes about 630-some crews, 150, almost 1,500 fire engines. And and guess what? They destroyed over almost 650-some structures, homes, churches that's been run down. This is something that we also want to keep in your mind, that the ongoing issue with the Boeing spaceship up at they called it the Starline. It's a capsule, but it went up to the International Space Station last month, and it's still there. And it's turned out right now, NASA's office has no faith in what Boeing can do, and now they're making plans for the space station. So those 2 people in there. Now, see, this is such a good thing to look at on the good side. They've been able to be up there all that time in June, still have enough food and stuff right now to survive. And now they're saying they have to survive now until they'll come back down sometime next year. And I'm not going to try to give you a date, but right now they're not even sure. They do know that they can get the people down, back to their families, sometime next year.
Folks, it seems we still have Mr. Folks on the line, but we're having some technical difficulties. Please stand by while we reestablish connection.
Welcome back to Lunch with the Missouri Chamber Comrades on the beautiful Saturday. No, August the 8th. No, I'm saying I'm getting that wrong. August the 10th, 2020. We just had a hiccup. I just had a hiccup. But before we left, we were talking about the family of the submersible submarine that was created on Ocean Gate that went down and the thing exploded because imploded because the pressure made it blow up, and that's why they were going down so deep in the ocean. So they've been in the first place. But right now, the owner, of the submersible right now is being sued for over $50 million, and by the family. So that's not a good thing for them. Okay. And also yesterday, dating back to the 06 riots from the Capitol, where we lost a lot of people. Then they going to court, and right now, yesterday, one of the rioters was able to get the oldest, the longest, second longest, I'm second to the longest sentence of 22 years in prison for his action. Now, right now, in the presidential races, presidential race right now, President Donald Trump is now flew up to Bozeman, Montana yesterday. That was his intention. He had some plane problem, but he did land. Thank God that safely, and then they took on another plane and got in there safely. And all this, he showed the details and all. He had a rally there that right now not quite following the message they put out there, but also this past Tuesday. But right now, he's speaking and spoke now, and like I said, the message he's putting out there about things that took place in the past, about stuff that's, not quite factual, because now we have this reality to kind of fact check them to see what is true or what is not true. And a lot of truth is, untruth is coming out. But also this week, Vice President Harris, the Democratic nominee to become Vice President, picked for her running mate. And there was a governor from Minnesota, Tim Walz. On Tuesday, they hit the campaign trail, reducing the Democratic ticket prior to the Democratic convention on the 19th of this month, which will be this will be the last convention. The Republicans had their first, Democrats had theirs, and then we will have the Democrats, and it's going to be in Chicago, Illinois. And right now, and so far, since the President Biden stepped down, Vice President Kamala Harris stepped in, she seemed to have rejuvenated the politics across the country and around the world about the United States. About a positive message being sent, and they not say a positive message, because right now that's something to be happy about. Have to be alive. Have to be through this experience what God has given us. I mean, so right now this campaign. And if you notice all the time that Vice President Harris is always smiling, and that's a good thing. And also, politics are also local. This past Tuesday, Congressman Corey Bush lost her race. It was county executive, prosecuting attorney, I should say, Westerville, with the help of organized religion and legal battle, was 11,000 votes. And so she kind of turned on us community. Didn't do a lot of things that need to be done for the community, and it came back to haunt her. And also, somebody continues to tell everybody, please, continue to pray for St. Louis City and the county as carjackings and murders continue to increase. And we're going to say, there's a lunch with the Missouri Chamber Comrades on that Michael Brown 10th anniversary of his death. And Previous University HotTalkRadio.com was created a year later, so we celebrated also. Going into 9 years, sometime next month. So again, you listen to Lunch with the Missouri Chamber Comrades on a beautiful Saturday from Previous University HotTalkRadio.com. Scott, get out of here. Welcome back to Lunch with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. We thank you so much for joining us. FergusonResidentTalk.com. Today we have happy to have with our special guest, Mr. Bill Kovacs, and author and contributor to our program. Mr. Kovacs, how you doing, sir?
I'm always doing fine, but today's, as Mr. Rogers says, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. First day we haven't had rain in 4 days. So,
yeah, I'm about to ask you about that weather, okay? Because we just talked about a few minutes ago about Hurricane Debbie. How she kind of on a home on the East Coast and don't want to leave.
she did like us. She gave us a lot of rain, but we needed it. So
yeah,
and it saved me from getting up early in the morning and worrying about the flower beds and the plants and whatever because it hadn't rained in so long. So now I don't have to worry about it for a while.
Well, don't feel bad. We got a lot of rain here prior to the our weather right now. We were in the 60s last night.
Oh, wow!
I mean, here today we're in the 70s, and so my voice and Real voice we're signing a supper. And guess what, Brother Scott? No problem. His voice is alive. So if I sound a little funny, that's because of the weather. Weather changed for the good. No complaints. No complaints. No complaints. No complaints.
Ira, at our age, every day you're alive, there should be no complaints.
I love seeing the tops out of the grass.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Matter of fact, we're gonna be able to more out of the pain. I said, yes, I'm alive. Then I look around. Yes. Matter of fact, one of the things I call Bill Kovacs, my big brother. He's my big brother. Bill's a little older than I am, and I'm a little brother. And so I said that because sometime in the near future we're gonna be beginning a program, possibly right before our program on Wednesdays on the playback of 12 to 1. That it's gonna be your brother, a big brother, and your brother. Big brother. And we're gonna talk about a lot of good things, right, Bill?
You got it. It'll be fun.
And the subjects, we don't have the slightest idea what they're going to be, but we're going to talk about what's going on. But anyway, today, Bill, here, first of all, before we get started, here in St. Louis, we had a really race with Congressman Cody Bush lost to prosecutor attorney Wesley Bell. And from all indications, it was the second most expensive race in congressional history, and that she lost. Can you talk about that a little bit? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, look, everybody knows Cori Bush had become a national figure. I don't know if that's good or bad. Sometimes when you're a member of Congress, it's bad. But she happened to be attached to a group called Squad, and they pushed not liberal policies. I think most people in Congress can understand liberal policies. They've been dealing with them since the Great Depression in the 1930s and 40s. But she pushed radically liberal policies, like defunding the police, support for Hamas. I mean, the list goes on. And I think what happened, especially after the man from New York, Jamal Bowman, lost, was that people had come to the conclusion there's got to be a debate. Everything can't be just violent reaction to whatever is said. There's got to be some way in which to function in Congress. And I say that because some of the antics that they pulled, like Jamal Bowman, when he didn't like a vote that was going to come up, he went and pulled the emergency fire alarm to stop Congress. Okay.
And by the way, you denied that. But you and I, there are cameras all over the place.
That's right. you and I did that, or any visitor did that, we'd all be in jail for quite a long time. He raised his presidential immunity and said, you can't do anything to me. And maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, but the fact is, he spent a lot of money in his race too, and was defeated. Cori Bush was the second. There's still two more. Omar, or whatever her name is, from I think she's from Michigan. She's next on the list, and I guess then AOC will be the last one. She's already won, so she'll be back. But being a squad member of one or two is not as effective as four. And so the list is being whittled down to get Congress back to some kind of a normal state where they just fight over policies, not fight over culture.
Well, good. Also, right now, another problem in Congress that we have in the House of Representatives is that we have a new speaker there, Mike Johnson, and he still hasn't figured out how to bring the Republicans together. And so right now they went on vacation for a whole month, and that means they didn't pass no bills. They haven't passed any bills that keep the country going. And so rather than we've had a small majority with him not having the experience to do what needs to be done, he decided to everybody go home. Well, how is that? How is that going?
Well, this is a point where I can disagree with you and sort of laugh a little bit. Or
please.
I'd say the last 15 years it was the Democrats who couldn't keep their caucus together. Nancy Pelosi obviously figured out how to do it, and she did a very effective job, and now it's the Republicans.
Oh, yeah.
I would argue, this is just me, and you and I have talked many times about this.
Yes.
I do not believe that any elected official represents the Democrats or the Republicans. The Constitution requires that they are trustees of the Constitution and fiduciaries to the institution in which they serve. They shouldn't be fiduciaries to the Democrats or the Republicans, and they shouldn't be going along a party line. They should be voting only on what is best for the country. And one of the things that I have a strong feeling about is that when politicians are aligned only with the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or the Libertarians, whoever it is, they take positions that they probably don't even believe in,
right,
to stay with the party and get the funding that they need to win the next election. This being a member of Congress shouldn't be about the next election or winning or losing. It should be representing the country to do the best thing for this country. And both parties are guilty. Yes, you're absolutely right now. Have a hard time getting it together. But long term, these people, if they're going to represent the country and the country's going to stay together, have to function as fiduciaries.
Well, Bill, you've written a couple of books, okay, but one of my favorite books, okay, is dealing with the Kovacs. Did I pronounce that right?
Reform the Kakistocracy.
Reform the Kakistocracy, okay. And that's a book I think needs to be reintroduced to the world. In it, okay, you break down step by step, okay, what it means to be in any organization, what it means to be involved with an organization, their principles, and you come down to the congressional, like you just said, they're concerned, and I can use Cori Bush, and we can also just use Mike Johnson right now, since they're Congress, everybody know. Here in Missouri and St. Louis, we need jobs. And one of the problems that Cori, okay, is not necessarily getting the squad, but here locally, okay, she would not meet with the local press. She would not meet with the local unions. She would not meet with the local pastors. None of them, okay. In fact, she would make an appearance, then you cannot get in contact with any kind of follow-up. To be in Congress, you're there to make sure that job and government money goes into your community, that you get your fair share. That's what you're there for. To advocate to make sure that when the money is being split, that you're from Virginia or you're from Montana, you're from California, that you get some money from your district. Am I right?
You would think so. That's one of the reasons why they're there.
Right, and we pay this salary for them to be there to make sure. And here in St. Louis, the unions right now, and with President Biden, I said being a union president, that the jobs, the money is coming to all the states right now, through this rebuild program, infrastructure. The infrastructure has been in disrepair for the last, I know here in St. Louis, Highway 70 got started in the St. Louis area. I mean, that's where we got started at. But we still have some two-lane highways right now that's starting to be replaced, Bill. And that's all because the money just came down recently. That came down when Cory Bush voted against it. And we needed that money. I mean, it was our money.
I don't know how to, you and I, part of the problem is you and I have been around too long. When I lived, this has gone back 50 years, when I lived in Philadelphia, they had political problems just like you have in St. Louis with getting the money to finish the highway. Route 95, which is the main highway on the East Coast, it goes from Florida to Canada. Well, you could drive from Florida to Philadelphia, and then 3 miles after Philadelphia, you could drive to Canada. Those 3 miles within the city of Philadelphia took 20 years to finish.
Oh my God. Wow.
So everybody who drove 95 had to get off 95, go through some crappy little city streets, and then get back on. I mean, unfortunately, that is government. And it's at all levels of government. And again, I come back to the fact that government should function, the fiduciary responsibilities to the institution. They're trustees of the Constitution, and they represent citizens. They are their only 3 functions. There are no other functions for these guys. And everything that they do, whether it's appropriating money or getting it to St. Louis or passing a bill,
getting bridges right now. We have a lot of bridges, like in Baltimore, with some highways that thank God that we had the money in the infrastructure program that they could build those back right away, not have to rely on have to beg for the money. The money was there. For them to go to work.
Ira, there is so much money in this system. We're we spend $7 trillion a year and we borrow $36 trillion. That's so much money.
Yeah, I'm on 43 years. It's a whole lot of money, no matter how you look at it. And like I said, I hate to see it sound like I said, that's our money, and we're trying to figure out how is it we're not getting it back in our community.
Yeah. Well, if it was spent properly, it would be. I mean, one of the things, a lot of the money goes to political friends, especially on a lot of the Green New Deal. It's got trillions of dollars going out to friends, to these wind projects that are in the ocean, and they're failing. But we keep on funding them, and that money is better needed for housing for the homeless, low-income housing. That's where it should be. They have to sit down. Look, you and your wife, and I'm sure Rev and everybody, we all sit down with our budgets and we say, well, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, but okay, we're out of money. What do we do? Then you have a choice. You either put it on the credit card or you don't do it. But you try to manage things so that you can afford whatever you're doing. Because government... Yeah, well, amen. Because government uses your money, Rev, and Ira's money and my money, they don't care about the money. And this $36 trillion is something our kids are going to have to pay for. And there are all children and their children, our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. Somebody's going to have to pay all of this money. Every single taxpayer in the United States today, their share of the national debt is $280,000. That's your share, Ira. That's my share. That's Rev's share. Who's going to pay this?
Scott, that's your share too, Scott.
Yeah, I know.
And it's anybody on the street. They all owe it. And at some point, is going to have to be paid, and I really don't know what we're going to do.
But Bill, you know something that come back to Cory Bush. All the politics are local. One of the things that people in our community didn't understand that she was against funding the police department, okay, but she was paying lots of money for her own private security. And one of the things that she did, she hired her husband's security firm to be the one that she was paying lots of money to for her own security. And her husband was the person that she was paying, and that money was going in-house bill. And you and I both know, years and years and years, politicians have hired them, but they don't hire them that blatantly. That's not something that you actually do.
Nope.
To put your husband or your family member, on the payroll, and they didn't buy it and say, hey, I did it, yes, and what you gonna do about it?
Well, the problem is nothing's done about it. So, I mean, this is why every citizen in this country has to, in my younger days, and it's unfair to say it about myself because I probably didn't, I took voting as, okay, I'm going to go vote. It's my duty. But I didn't really think about it. I didn't think that it had any influence at all other than you probably elected all the same people and they went to Congress. Today, it is so important that you know who these people are that you're electing. And I don't mean know them by the name. I mean, what do they done? What's their background? What are their issues? How are they going to help the community? All of these things are so crucial. Rather than just going in and pulling the lever, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, whatever it is, we have to know these people. And I'll be the first to tell you, we don't. We don't know who these people are. And we've got to start figuring out what is it that they're going to do. And especially if they've been in office for a few years, you have a pretty good idea. I mean, I just think we have to get back to finding people who are willing to come in and do the job. My favorite president, I'm biased on this, is a guy named Calvin Coolidge. I don't know if people even remember Calvin Coolidge anymore.
He goes back
to the 30s. And Calvin Coolidge was the president during the roaring 20s. And he had the greatest economy in the United States, and one of his things was he did nothing. He went into the office every day, he looked at the budget, talked to his staff, he made decisions, read everything, didn't do anything fancy, and when in the summer he went up to New Hampshire and sat on his porch.
And I knew it.
But the government let the private sector run. Private sector created jobs, and you didn't have the government taking trillions of dollars out of the economy and then giving it to friends. I mean, if you take $7 trillion from taxpayers, you're taking $7 trillion of what is theirs and spending it on your friends rather than them spending it on their family. And I'm not saying you have to starve government because you need government. You need a military, you need a police force, you need welfare.
Right.
You need all that. I get all that. But you don't need $36 trillion of extra junk.
But now, I think we all have to agree that right now that things are crazy. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I want to talk to you about is our presidential race right now. I'm just so with President Donald Trump. I always call his title for life as president. That I'm not quite following. Okay, his campaign style. Compared to last time he ran a couple of times. How he's campaigning. And the thing that he's saying, he's telling more lies. But if somebody fact check me, I will correct myself. You will correct yourself. And one of the blatant things about Willie Brown, who used to be the governor of California,
right?
About them in a helicopter. And Mr. Brown said didn't take place, and Mr. Trump is still saying about other things that's not true. How is this a good campaign?
It's frustrating. Look, my overall thought on this race, and You're the Democrat. I'm probably the Republican or the Libertarian, but I'm not sure which I am.
Well, no, you put two together. You put two. You can't do a Libertarian.
And
Okay.
I think you have two flawed candidates, and I really believe that. Both of whom could win because the other loses, or both. It's really going to be who performs the least worst of the two candidates is going to win. And I don't know who that is. I'm not sure that Harris can defend her record or whatever record she's got, because she is the vice president. She's not the president. And I think Trump has a problem with being accurate on some of his facts. For example, he talks about having the biggest tax rate cut in history and all how it helped.
That's part is true.
And it's true, but if you look at where the money went mostly to very wealthy people. One of the parts he wanted to do was this thing called carried interest, which is how the hedge fund guys get taxed. And he had promised that was going to be the center point of his tax bill. Well, it wasn't in the tax bill. So, I mean, I could go down the list on that. But the same token, Harris wants universal health care, and I think universal health care is probably something we should shoot at, but nobody's ever figured out how to do it and pay for it. And to pay for it, you might actually have to limit your reimbursements to doctors, since the federal government pays probably more doctors than anyone else. And the truth of the matter is, when you pay doctors the way you do, we've got a medical system that's paid probably, the average doctor probably makes 3 times what the average doctor makes in Europe, probably 10 times what the average doctor makes in Africa. I mean, at some point in time, there's got to be control over the system. And this is what I've been talking about. These guys got to get in there, guys, women, whoever. They have to get in there and control. Not control is a bad word. They have to get in and use common sense in how they spend money.
Well, Bill, now let's get right down to it. There's a song came out years ago. We all know Kamala Harris. Nobody said Kamala Harris. By the way, the record that her and Joe Biden came forth, okay, they did a whole lot of things that they had said they were going to do for years. They got them done. But there's a person that's the one that's anybody here in D.C. called a lobbyist. I think that's a word that's hidden away. People don't talk about the lobbyist, the one that's really running the country police force. They put the money into people's pockets so they canvass it. So when they do, matter of fact, right now, a person just lost a race, Cory Bush, John Ashcroft, his father was Attorney General and the governor in Missouri. He just lost, and he's complaining about fundraising, the reason that he came into the place. So I mean, so that fundraising and the lobbies are the things that drive politics. Am I right? Can we agree on that?
Pretty much. It's the way the system works. It's really, everyone. Let's see if I can describe it. Having spent 45 years in that system.
Okay. You know how it works a little bit.
Well, the way it works is the decision-making process is really not. Yes, it's the politician who goes to the floor and casts the vote, but that's the end result of the process. That's not the process itself. What happens is a million decisions in between that are affected by the staff, by the wealthy, by the fundraisers, by the lobbyists, by the action groups, by the nonprofits, and all of those people get in, and it's who has the most sway with everyone that's part of the elected officials, who has the most sway. So when you get in to ask who are the really most powerful groups, and I'm gonna talk about 2, and I'm going to talk about business and labor, because I think that's the most interesting. When you look at who's really powerful, and I say the labor union, but it's really more of the public employees, the teachers unions. They can give you, like Joe Biden's biggest contributor was the teachers unions, and I think they gave him like $30 million or $35 million. That's a lot of sway in an election. But the
But Bill, you mentioned labor, okay? One thing that labor does, and I've been a labor union man myself, and working campaign, when labor endorse somebody, they don't just give you money. They give you people on the street that's knocking on doors.
that was my second.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead. All right.
But first point is they give you $30 million, which is pretty nice. But the second point is they give you 3 or 4 million people to help you out.
Right.
That's something.
Right.
That is something the business community, having watched them for 25 years, has never, ever, ever, ever been able to get.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get
Those guys are not going to get. Those guys are not going to get out and go canvas door to door and meet people on the street. And that's the one thing that being me from that side of the pocket, knocking on doors, putting window signs in. Nowadays, people want to have press conferences, and just talk to the public. But everybody don't have the wherewithal to have the TV sets, the internet, to hear. And that's one thing that Donald Trump right now said that's debate. Well, right now, Vice President Harris in her campaign, they're right now going to people, okay, people can see them. Now, I'm not big on rallies, okay, but at least that somebody can see a candidate. But I'm kind of like one of the ones who want to go door to door, knock on some doors, and somebody can see who you are face to face, and press a brush, okay, so I know who you are. And I think that's the thing that everybody's going away from in politics nowadays.
Yeah, there's too much Fox TV, but
yeah, but not just Fox. Okay, Miss NBC, all the stations right now have somebody that they like. Okay, that they're gonna carry the water for. But I don't think that Fox okay at the pen. But I should say that one of the things that have been talked about right now, and I've got to mention it in the program this morning. I was talking to Suffolk Ferguson that the owner of Fox. The whole family, the Murdochs right now, are in court right now for control of that network, and not just the Fox network, but all the properties they own is being fought between the families right now, and that's been going on behind closed doors, but not closed doors. No, there's not closed doors. Okay, it's just not being reported on. Okay, I can't say because it's in the court and it's out there, but people are not talking about that. But those are the real things that control what goes on. And then like the case of MSNBC, which is NBC. Well, they had some changes there, their ownership. Where the family that owned that finally sold off of that. And Bill, honestly, people making the money right now are these networks out there, like I said, who now control movies, TVs, all that stuff. They're all out there right now controlling it, and that's how they give us the news that we get. Yeah, we don't have we don't have a sense about what they're going to show. Other than know that they go where the commercial money is also. We forget about that commercial pays a lot of stuff in it also, and that's one thing they do.
Ira, you do have control. You just don't watch it.
Yes. And the one thing that people right now, Bill, I don't know about in D.C., but here locally, one of the things that some of the school districts are doing is they're taking the kids' cell phones away during class time, which I think they should.
Yeah.
Because right now you don't go to school to be on your cell phone. I mean, when I and you were in school and Rev was in school, and then Scott was in school, we ain't had no cell phones.
I'm just saying, just because they didn't have cell phones, we didn't have calculators either, Ira.
Right. I recall, Bill, that I was in school for draft, and they said, "Can I have a calculator in here?" And you can't have them, but now you go to any architectural firm right now, they got calculators all over the place.
Well, the times have changed.
Yes, it is that.
Ira, when I was... Go ahead.
No, Bill, but I'm saying, that's it, okay? And guess what? People seeing a lot what they're seeing because right now, They're buying the products. You know what I mean? And you don't see any of the networks and they going broke. You know what I mean? And so the system works okay. And that's one of the things I would say this out loud to everyone. This is the right day. Right now, we're going to be advertised on there for commercials for our person, USHealthTalker.com. We need money like everybody else. And that's one thing going forward. Will we also go have some commercials at some point on our station? Because right now, you have the luxury of having no commercial breaking in trying to sell you anything. You get pure information 24/7, which will be coming up soon. And that's what people want to hear is factual information, not for paid for information, not misinformation.
Well, misinformation permeates the whole society. Anyway, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege to go back to the labor unions and business to discuss.
Okay, come on, go right ahead.
That's really crucial to an election. With labor having both money and people, that's a huge advantage, which I think is a huge advantage for the Democrats. They can put people on the street, but now they can, not only that, they can put people on the street, but they can also help grandma fill out the mail-in ballot and mail it for her. So the Democrats have a huge advantage. The difficulty that the Republicans have is for so long they relied, and I know you're the president of the Missouri Black Chamber, but for decades they relied on the business community and their contributions. And the difficulty with the business community is the stuff that they really want doesn't seem to help anyone but the executives. They want stock buybacks. They want subsidies. They want subsidies like the Intel just lost 50 or 60% of its value. Well, they received 28. I think it's 20. No, that's too much. But they received like more money out of the CHIPS Act than anyone. Probably $9 or $10 billion, and they're ready to go bankrupt. They can't make a product. Boeing has received hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars in federal contracts, and it can't get its 2 astronauts back from the moon. I mean,
right. Nothing for the International Space Station.
The International Space Station. But the point is, they're not using the money to produce the products. They're using the money to make sure that they're taken care of. And as a result, what's happening is you have a lot of money being spent on the business community, and it's not being used very well. So what happens is, you've got employees who are upset with the business community, and they're saying we can't live on what you pay us, but they need the job, so they have to work. The government is not overseeing where $7 trillion goes in the course of the year. The business community is pocketing it, and the labor unions are putting in Democrats, and the Democrats are just going to, when they're in power, they give to their friends. They're just different friends in the business community, and then the business community wants to leave the country. So, I mean, coming back to my Calvin Coolidge, you got to get people in there who care about the country, not care about themselves or political parties. It doesn't matter in my world. It doesn't matter who you elect, because if you're always getting the same thing, because, as you say, the advertisers put them in, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you elect. We got to take it.
I remember years ago, years ago here in the St. Louis area, when I was being asked, to run for state representative. And so I sit down to one of the state senators at that time. I said, retired state senator, and he said to me, Aaron, if you're going to run for office, what you need to do is get you a job. And not depend on the state salary that you get in your livelihood. And that was some very true words that most people right now who run for office, it's their full-time job.
Yeah.
And they don't. And right now, they get money from the lobbyists, pays them money, and their campaigns going. And so right now, that's where the money comes into the campaigns. You know, and people right now who run for Congress or Senate right now tell you that even part of their day, okay, they spend X amount of hours on the telephone raising money to get back in office.
That's that's what they look as their job.
Now, Bill, his memory serves right, okay, in your book, okay, reforming the constituency, there was not a section that I recall on really how the lobbyists there come in and control the situation.
Oh, that was all in the first chapter, is how all of these groups together control.
Okay, yes.
Control.
Okay, yes. Yeah, no, that was okay. Well, you use the word lobbyist. You just kind of define. You define very well how and what was actually the one that was controlling things.
Yeah, it's really interesting because most people think, well, you know, a lobbyist it's one-on-one and they're there, but everybody.
No,
I mean, everybody's there. You know, you think and I think of lobbyists as well, the guy who represents a company and he's got there with his hand out, or represents a union, he's got his hand out.
No.
But agencies are lobbyists. The federal agencies are lobbyists. Staff misleading a member are lobbyists. I mean, almost anyone that you can think of is a lobbyist. The FBI, who decides, you know, they don't like your activity, they're a lobbyist because they're in there saying, get this guy or get that guy. The military establishment, they're lobbyists because they want more bombs, because every time they make a bomb and drop it, they get to make another bomb. I mean, think about it. Who in their right mind wants just more and more bombs to kill people and to use the bombs so they can do something and kill a person, so they can make another bomb and kill another person? Think about it. Insanity. We spend what, $90 billion a year on the Defense Department? That's an amazing amount. That's an incredible amount of money. It's incredible.
It's unreal.
And what do we do with the money? I mean, I guess, you know, you can sit there and say, well, we're wasting a lot of money in Ukraine. We're going to waste a lot of money in Israel. We wasted trillions of dollars in 22 years in Afghanistan. And where did that get us? We walked out in shame. We spent trillions in Vietnam. Where did that get us? We walked out on shame.
Well, Bill, right now, let me ask you this, okay? We're in they don't say we're in a war with Israel doing what he's doing. How does it affect what's going on here? Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, look, Ukraine and Israel, there are proxies. Just like Hezbollah and Hamas are the proxies for Iran. The big players aren't fighting because if they do, things may get out of control and nuclear bombs may get dropped. So you hire other people. I mean, we're hiring these people. We're hiring Israel. We're hiring Ukraine to do our work. I mean, think about it. Think about it, because it's been going on since the Cold War. Think about all of the problems that we've had for, 75 years with Russia. It's all Russia has been responsible for everything in the world that we can think of. And ask yourself a very serious question. Do you honestly think, not Russia, but the Russian people really hate us that much? That they're that sinister that they want to, destroy? They don't. They're just like you and me. They just want to go to work every day, take care of their family, have a drink on the weekend, and not worry about this stuff. It's usually the leaders that are saying, we got to do this. Well, what do these leaders get out of it? Well, Putin is one of the wealthiest people in the world. He's taken about as much money as he can. But you know something? Joe Biden's no different. He just took less money. I mean, this is what the problem is that we've got people who shouldn't be running the country. And to me, the Russians, all we want to talk about is, well, the Russians stole the 2016 election, and then they stole the 2020 election, and then you've got the FBI getting involved in elections, and we've got all of this stuff going on. What does it do for the country?
Well, Bill, the one thing that's not being discussed, okay, that's way on the back burner, is what are we doing? Who's doing what for our country? Who's making sure? But that like I said, there's nothing saying that the people who are like I said, the question I originally asked you, Bill, that I still haven't got an answer to: how can the House Representatives go home and not pass any bills? And how does the country function? Why did they go?
Well, some people would argue the country functions better when they're gone.
Okay, well, kudos. Well, yes, I think that can be said.
Well, first of all, they were scheduled to go home, so they went home. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I think part of the issue is, and you had raised it very early on about why did Johnson leave and go home? I mean, part of it is it was scheduled to go home, and he let him go home. I mean, but the other thing is the Speaker of the House has really changed. And going back just within our lifetime to the Sam Rayburns of the world, or even the Carl Alberts, or, you can pick a lot of them, Tip O'Neill.
Tip O'Neill, right, yeah.
They ran the House of Representatives as the Speaker of the House, not as the Speaker of the Republican Party or the Speaker of the Democratic Party. They worried about the whole institution of Congress functioning well, even with how bills got brought to the floor, that the appropriation process worked. The appropriation process doesn't work anymore. They spend $7 trillion a year, and they just spit it out. They don't even know where it's going. They can't even tell you. Well, I'm going to give you one statistic to show you how out of whack the entire appropriation process is. There's a rule in the House of Representatives that says Congress cannot appropriate any money unless the underlying statutes have been reauthorized. Okay? That means
there's about 12 of those, I think.
Well, there are 13 approaches, but the underlying statutes every year, because the GAO does a tracking of this. Last year, there were over 1,000 laws that were not reauthorized, costing about $440 billion, and Congress deemed them all reauthorized without any oversight and funded them. That's $440 billion they shouldn't have even had to take a vote on. And yet they deemed it. And so going back to my complaint is these people have to take their job seriously. If you took your job unseriously, they'd fire you. If I did it, they'd fire me. But these guys...
One thing that we can see, that they're constantly on TV 24/7. And I know that's how, again, they raise those are fundraisers. They raise X amount of dollars a day to be up there.
Yep. Well, they all want to be TV stars. They're more concerned about being on TV. I don't get it. But again, when I was on the Hill, we didn't have 500 cable channels, so they didn't have access to it. So if they did, maybe they would have been on. But when I was there, we had a lot of the giants on the Hill. I mean, the McMahons and the Gonzaleses. I mean, they were giants, just giant legislators, and because they did so much. And now,
they got along with each other. Now, Democrat and Republican, they were going to have a drink after work, play some cards at eating time, and they got along.
Actually, they even played cards together.
Right. I'm saying,
they played poker.
Right, and one of the things that I always said that the late Rodney King, well, all he went through, one of his statement, he said, "Can we just get along?" I mean, and that's the thing now. In Congress, if they could get along, okay, our whole world would be different.
It would be. It absolutely.
But right now, people hate Republicans. They hate Democrats. I'm a this. I'm a that. We Americans.
Yep.
We are Americans.
It seems pretty hard. Seems pretty hard.
And Bill, I don't see anybody, Bill, trying to go to the airport, which is not for about. They're on lines right now. People say, "I'm going to leave this country. I'm going to go someplace else." You don't see that in no place.
No.
I mean, I take my word. I checked the airport the other day. There in the airport, towards the outside sun, there was almost empty. Well, nobody trying to say, "I'm getting out of here." Matter of fact, some years ago, we had a radio host here in St. Louis saying how much he hated America. Okay, so he took a tour over the Africa. Okay, and unfortunately, the plane that he was on got broke down while he was there, and he got stuck. And that's what they were called. That's what they were calling lazy clay. They called it lazy clay. They were calling Mr. Clay. Can you get us out of here? Can you get us back home?
Well,
I mean, but I'm saying that nobody wants to leave the country, but they think the country is all bad.
well, I think the country. This is just me. I think the people of the country have really come a long way.
Yes, they have.
They're pretty good people, and they're pretty straightforward. And I'm not saying everybody, but maybe 92, 95%. They're pretty solid people right now. I mean, we got 5% of people who are crazy, and they're bigots and whatever else they are. But it's a lot different than it was when you and I were growing up.
Oh yes. Bill. But the one thing, okay, that has been a demise is our communities where we could communicate with each other. Like now, all of our inner cities, and I've traveled the country, most of your inner cities right now are kind of desolate. They are desolate.
Well, it's because you're the expert on this.
Well, being an expert, one thing I would say here in Ferguson, Missouri, that last year some buildings got burned down, but they're now being replaced. I think one of the things that a good friend of mine, Mike McMillan, said in the interview that the everything right now is building a $10 million building, along with the corporate sponsors, on a vacant lot that was burned out. And he was saying that he talked to some people in California after they were doing the Rodney King riots when things got burned up, and he asked what was the main reason that things didn't come together. He said, well, one, they left those lots vacant all that time, and so now he's trying to put things on those lots. And matter of fact, things are going on those lots right now. You got to let the past go and go to the future. And that's the thing that we have a problem with. Not you and I, okay, but as far as our government things right now, they all want to go back to what didn't take place. But hell, we all know you weren't the perfect world.
Well, going back to the community, which you started with, what's the statistic? It's 40% of the cost of building. You and I have been through this one. 40% of the cost of building a low-income housing unit is government regulation. There's no way in the world you can cut back government regulation to 20%. And think about it, on a $500,000 unit, and I'm going to just go over a few statistics because this drives me nuts. If the average cost, let's say in St. Louis, to build a low-income housing, let's say it's 500,000. Just let's use the number. It's probably closer to 400, but let's use 500 because it's just an easier number.
Okay.
And 40% of that is government regulation. That's a tremendous cost. You could take that down to 300,000 and maybe build more houses. How is it that in California the cost of a low-income one unit of low-income housing is $1 million? Well, 40% of that is government. I mean, at some point you have to really decide: is housing people more important than having them deal with 60 zillion regulations? I just know from my days in law practice and litigating some of these things, they have you doing some really stupid things. I mean, and they have inspectors come in 3, 4, 5 times on the same issue. I can see, okay, so you got to have a couple inspections on electricity. That I get. You have to have some on the sewer line. That I get. But you have to have it on how you put light sockets in a house and how you put what kind of light bulbs you use. I mean, the other day, go buy new light bulbs. I used to be able to go to the store and buy light bulbs for a couple bucks a piece, and they'd last. Okay, they only last a year. Okay, so what? I went for a couple bucks more the next year. Now it's $25 for some of these newfangled.
I just bought some bulbs, and they were almost 20 some bucks. Okay, they say they last long, but the part you were talking about earlier, minutes ago, when I started my company some years ago in the city of St. Louis, I went to get my business license. Okay, did just a personal tour through City Hall, and I know City Hall very well, and I had to pay a couple $100 just to get a license. They said, I can take a check, give me cash. I said, give me cash. And then as that girl, I ended up paying almost up to $500, okay, going different inspections before my business, so I could even on my business. I decided to sit here with it and got licensed in some place in one of the counties around here. And when I do some business, because like you said, it's prohibited the cost of doing business in our country. And now right now, I'm bringing Mr. Chuck DeVoe here on our council. That's him, Chuck. How you doing, sir?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, Chuck. How are you?
Bill, how are you? Great to hear your voice again.
Oh, always.
Doing well. Yes.
Yes, as a matter of fact, right now we're going to kind of switch tracks a little bit because this week I got to give kudos to Mr. Chuck DeVoe on the National Black Business Week, National Black Business Alliance organization that's putting on their 124th conference in Atlanta, Georgia. And Mr. Chuck DeVoe wrote a beautiful letter this past week that covered a whole lot of basic, Chuck. So thank you for being a good writer with your team. Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome.
I mean, so you be so kind. You got a copy of the letter, didn't I say it to you, didn't you?
Pardon?
You get a copy of your Chuck's letter? I think I sent you a copy.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Okay, but anyway, Chuck, right now we were talking about, before you came aboard, about why it is so difficult to do business in this country. And we all know that as a black businesses, that means that suddenly change. So you kind of give us your thoughts on some of the major difficulties now that black businesses are incurring as they try to do business.
Well, they're variations probably of the same things that we've been subjected to for a while. And I know Bill would have a lot of it had to do with regulatory related things on changing the law or changing standards and requirements. And certainly there was, like, for example, a few years ago, used to be EPA type requirements. And the changes with government contracting have been such that it's almost impossible to get into it if you don't get an inside track or get a protege mentoring kind of relationship and kind of get in there.
Sure. There will be lobbyists that you can get to change the name around. There be somebody that knows the system inside out and work on your behalf.
Yeah, it's a lot to it. That's just one of the things. Access to capital has always been an issue, but it's everything. But those that are having success are, the phrase about disruption. See, when they don't understand it, or it hadn't been figured out, or it's something new, you can make hay while the sun is shining, and then the regulators and the system will catch up to it, how they try to gain control of it. Mm-hmm. But I would say, go ahead.
No, I think that's that's a fascinating point, because earlier in the show we were talking about, how labor functions in lobbies and how business functions in lobbies. But when you said this, one of the things, it's so interesting. For example, one of the ways big business keeps on getting bigger is exactly what you said. They get in first. So, for example, if you went back 10, 12 years in this country, you would see that there are a lot of ways to get air conditioning. They used hydrofluorocarbons, and they used all kinds of different things, but it was relatively cheap and most people could afford it. Well, once they decided to go quote unquote green, the cost of, you couldn't really afford the cost of replacing some of the freons that you needed was so expensive, you had to buy a new unit. So who makes the units? There are only 4 companies that make the units. The same thing with refrigerators, washers, and dryers. We can go down the whole list. 62 appliances that are used within the household are now regulated by the federal government. Well, including light bulbs, and we were on that too. Once the federal government gets in there and starts regulating, the cost is going to double, triple, or quadruple. It's just a matter of time. But where does the money go? The money goes to those few companies that make the product, that have the lobbyists, and it's not just lobbyists, but it's once you get in and you create it. And I'm going to give you one example because I was involved in the very beginnings of everything. When I was the chief counsel on the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, this is back in 1976, so I'm showing my age. And
that's okay.
And one of the things it did, it was the first time that it regulated hazardous waste in the United States. And for us older people, we can remember the Cuyahoga River on fire and people dumping hazardous waste in the backyard. Fabulous bill, cleaned it up, because if you didn't clean it up and you illegally disposed, you're going to get hit for hundreds of thousands in fines. And that really took the American business community gone. But anyway, there was one problem that nobody could solve, and that was liquid hazardous waste. No one knew what to do with it. So they kept on doing it, and finally regulations came out and said you got to do this, this, and this. Well, at that time, there were probably 200 or 300 companies in the country that could really treat it. By the time it was finally implemented, about 4 or 5 big companies controlled everything. Well, wow. And this happens, you can go through issue by issue. You can go through recycling. You can go through hazardous waste. You can go through refrigerators, washers and dryers. You go down the whole list. And now consumers sit there and say, well, we can't afford a new air conditioner. We can't afford this. We can't. Well, thank the federal government for it, because what they do makes products expensive. The rich can always afford the product. That's easy. The people who can't afford it are the people who make under the $55,000 or $60,000 a year, which is the average wage and the average income in the country. They can't afford this. And that's what's happening right now, is you got half the country that can't possibly afford what government is doing, because government spends this $7 trillion a year, but they also impose another $2 or $3 trillion in regulatory costs. That's $20 trillion the federal government is responsible for out of the $25 trillion economy. That's
one thing that you had to include, okay, is the state get their piece of that also, and so with the local governments also. But right now, one of the things that you're doing, okay, I mentioned the letter that you sent out the other day, telling about what the chambers are doing, have done. You know, in my case, I have to say I'm part of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and created here, and that the NASDAQ Chamber of Commerce, has gone through a resurgence, and now Secretary Board leadership, we have one of the largest to be conferences coming up in Atlanta, Georgia. Tell us about that, Chuck.
We're in our second year of the annual National Black Business Conference, and even though it's the second year of this version of it, but it's actually the 124th anniversary of the national, what used to be called the Negro Business League, now just referred to as the National Business League. And it was founded and conceived by Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver And it was really done just on the same type of challenges and topics and things that we're addressing now. That's where the origins and the beginnings of it came from. So we're looking as the pandemic came about and the economics of pandemic, the economy impacted what happened, and then you add to it elements that were somewhat measured by George Floyd and the racist disposition of our society, and how did that impact commerce, and what role does money play in social and civil environments, not just civil rights, but the whole thing of how your life is and what's going on in this community and all these other things. So the solution really are principles and practice and leadership that Booker T. Washington espoused was for us to be able to do business within our own community. And that's kind of like when you start getting back to that talk about the black dollar. Well, the black dollar just was really us giving a term to something that we could refer to within a black community, but it is no different than a Jewish or Hispanic or Indian or Chinese or whatever, in that they were doing business with each other, with themselves, within their community. So there was a study that was done some time ago where they were able to measure that the Jewish community, I think, has $1 would touch 17 different hands within their community before the money was spent outside of their community. So if you think about it, if we lined up 17 people and everybody just handed $1 to the next person, the person next to them, and it just kept going in a circle, that $1 would serve as income for 17 people, in an indirect way. So that's really what this theory was talking about. And due to all the different cultural evolutions and things that happened, when there was Black Wall Street back in the, what was it, the I don't know, years. Yeah, 27 in Tulsa. That dollar was the biggest ever, I think, recorded in history for in the let's say the 19th century, and that was 27 times. Wow. Because that's an element that we get into this a little bit, but there were those proponents that felt like integration was the solution, and then there were those that were saying segregation still is where we survive and where we thrive. And we were bought into being a part of a political voice or seat or participation versus an economic participation. So we got the right to vote, and we got in the game as we perceived it to be. But if we weren't welcomed at the bank, you couldn't get your home, or you had to live in a certain area. So this is what it's a long way of going about saying this 124th annual National Black Business Conference is a convening of all elements of civil society and government as well. Everyone's invited to come in, but we're sharing our dispositions and bringing our resources. But the difference now, it's heavy Pan-Africanism. We have 32 countries that have confirmed. Our keynote speaker will be the president of Liberia. And we have Latin America, Colombia, Costa Rica, Panama, Ecuador. A number of different countries are being represented, but it's very diasporic because we all are having the same challenges, the same issues, regardless of your geographic location. So in that, we're finding that there are very high quality, organic, let's say natural agricultural-related products. They're being grown in other countries, but because they're not being grown on a major commercial, industrial-type farm, they don't really get exported or have the opportunity to export. A good example of that might be coffee. Starbucks is the dominant player in the coffee industry, and they actually own farms. So you could have 100 farmers that maybe own 10 hectares, all grow coffee, but they can't really sell it because of the million acres of produce that Starbucks would have, and Starbucks being also the largest buyer, they're not really buying in the market, but they're driving the price down. And so they don't have an opportunity to match up with a potential partner, and that's what we're facilitating. We're looking at raising the standards, the education, the knowledge, and the resources for what it takes to have a partner in another country and be able to exchange goods and services. In addition to that, then comes increasing capacity to where they can also become a supplier to a multinational corporation in that country. So if we take 2 steps back from it, we're really talking about global economic development and how do you nationalize it. So local content, things that are made in that country by the people of that country, processed there and made to say made in whatever country or wherever that's done. And let's, in this case, we'll say Africa. Made in Africa, but then shipped to the United States, as opposed to raw materials being shipped to China or England or Italy or anywhere, India, and then being processed, turned into a final product, and then sold back to that country. So this is largely what's happening in what was once considered emerging economies. Our third world economies are now becoming emerging economies, but that's where the business opportunity lies. So a lot of what we're talking about is dealing with that. I just had an opportunity this past week that I was invited to be a panelist in Oxford, England, at Oxford University, to talk about the evolution and advantage of apprenticeships. And Ira, I know you got a background with unions, and when you say apprenticeship, that's really what came to my mind at first. But now there is a whole new rebirth of the utilization of apprenticeships for executive management. Mm-hmm. Executive management
for everyone.
Yeah, white collar type jobs. Mm-hmm. And they're paying for the tuition, and they're saying, like, take a kid in high school, and they'll interest you in a field, and then they'll help you with tuition and other points to go and get certified, and not a 4-year degree. They're trying to offer an alternative so you can still be educated and not come out with a whole lot of debt and not have a job. So they're grooming people. It's kind of like in sports where they started recruiting people like in grade school or something, and giving them scholarships. When they graduate, they get to go to a great school and play basketball or whatever the sport is. And it finances it, but it gets you on track much earlier in life. So we were, in this case, we had a chance to meet with Siemens Company, which is very healthcare oriented type of people that were there. There were a number of hospitals, but Siemens manufactures the MRI units that you see in hospitals, and they actually make them in Oxford, England. So I was able to talk with the head of their apprenticeship program, and he was telling me how important it is to have employees that look and represent the same communities and cultures that their clients do. And that was, I thought, really a stark new realization of what's going on with why there are 10 jobs for every 8 applicants. These corporations are losing money because they can't find the proper workforce. So it's a big issue, and I kind of got enlightened to a higher level of what it was and the challenges, because they're not really connected all the way down to the people, the communities, and the individuals that they're trying to offer jobs to. A lot of people don't want a job. They want to know, can I get a contract from my company? And that's another philosophy, that there's not a lot of difference between a W-2, a 1099, or an LLC, a sole proprietorship, or an S Corp, C Corp. It's you're trying to provide a service or resource to another entity. So that was all this, bringing it back to what's going to be happening at the conference in Atlanta. To go along with that, though, we do, because it's the World Conference of Mayors, National Business League, and the National Black Chamber of Commerce. So we certainly have commerce, but we also have policy in there. And so we've invited all the presidential candidates, and really have an open invitation for any level of a candidate, and a number of congressional folks that are invited and we think may come, but it's right at the end of the Democratic National Convention. And both Donald Trump's campaign and Kamala Harris's have expressed interest. It's also the same week, at the same time going on, will be the Invest Fest, which is probably the largest Black investor conference that is really at a consumer type level. The average guy can go there and meet all kinds of celebrities and gain insights.
5 minutes, gentlemen.
It's Black Business Week in Atlanta, and it's hosted by the mayor of Atlanta as well. So I give it back to you, Mr. Folks.
Didn't mean to interrupt, but I need to. Sorry.
Ira, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Your thoughts?
Yes, I am. Well, my thoughts, I think one of the things that's going on, that's so dynamic, is that the National Black Chamber of Commerce and the conference that we put together here is going to change a footprint for how we can work together and find capital and find resources that's been there, that's not there. So one thing that's be a Kovacs material, okay, that we need capital, okay, and access to it. But there's so many roadblocks to trying to get it, okay, that it's just almost impossible to do business. And the rules have changed also, how we also do business, for DEI, things such as that. And that has come up more as a thing in the room that I talked about. Please ask me, sir.
Go ahead, Chuck. But see, this is the whole thing. We know times are changing. We know the playing field and the environment is changing. Corporations are changing and shifting and adapting. And just like Bill was giving a great example of what happened, like with just something that we take for granted, like air conditioning and what's going on. And just go out right now and trying to figure out, why does gasoline cost one price in one place and another price at another? And then what's the advantage? And I just noticed that one gas station, I just read the fine print, they got a much lower price, but they say that's the price you get if you bring your car there to get repaired. It's an old school gas station that actually has a garage, and you can pull your car up in there and get worked on.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's an entrepreneur. They're coming up with some different angles and some different things, and affinity, a reason to want to do business with them. I'll give you another real interesting, and I don't know if I mentioned this to you last week or not, but we have a very ethnic, very community or neighborhood type of food spot. It's called Angry Jerk, and it's for jerk chicken. And if you like Jamaican chicken and or that jerk chicken, you get in a bigger city or whatever, you get a chance to have it. People are like saying, "Yeah, I just feel like some jerk today, so I got to find it." So this place, they got really popular in the sense with one location, and I saw that they had moved over into, like, this would be in Silver Springs, which is a very multi-international ethnic type area. You got all kinds of Africans and Caribbean and Jewish and European, all kinds of folks or whatever. That's the history of Silver Spring. But they started a retail, a franchisable product scenario similar to like Chipotle or something like that. And it was a bowl, bowls and healthy, vegetarian and all that. So you could go into a jerk restaurant, start off at the end of the line with a bowl, and you pick what your base is. So it's something like noodles or cabbage or any number of different kinds of. They had a curry chickpea kind of thing that unless you really know what that's about, you like, it sounds crazy. But I thought it was a very innovative and a thought and an idea because it's allowing different types of people to try a new cuisine, something very different.
Well, right now, I hate to say this, that our it's like on the wall that kind of keeps us in the butt here. And right now, before we get out, we tell us one thing about the conference and how people can get involved.
Excuse me. I think we have 124 speakers right now already scheduled and lined up. And you could go on nationalblackbusinessconference.com and you can get a free ticket, free registration, and you can gain access to all the registrants. We have close to 2,000 people registered right now. And you can go in and you can interact and you can experience the conference virtually. So again, that's nationalblackbusinessconference.com. And please check it out. You can do it for free. But if you want to come, you're more than welcome. You can get all the meals, breakfasts, dinners, and lunches, everything that's offered for $150 for about 3 days worth of meetings. We've got 34 workshops. So we're excited. We're looking forward to it. And this is a build up to next year when we have our 125th celebration of the beginning and creation of the National Business League. So thanks for giving me this opportunity. Bill, as always, a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, congratulations. It sounds fascinating. So